Hello drawing students, and welcome to demo number 2 for your self-portrait. So at this point we've got all the lines blocked in kind of where you want it to be, and we're going to start doing the values. So the values are the lights and the darks. So you're going to want to look at your picture and figure out, like, okay, what's a dark, what's a medium dark, what's a medium light, and what's a light area of your drawing. And we're gonna just try to get those general values in. We're not gonna worry about the details so much right now. We just wanna get a sense of kind of what's dark, what's light, and we wanna cover the whole paper with charcoal. So we're gonna take the Vine charcoal at this point and we're gonna put it away because we're done using that. We don't wanna use that anymore. We wanna transition to the compressed charcoal. So I've got 2 pieces that from the same place. You also want to make sure that you have your gummy eraser available, and you're going to want to have some tissues available for smoothing things out, and possibly your baby wipes just for wiping your hands off, or paper towels or whatever you want. Your hands are going to get messy. Your clothes are probably going to get a little bit messy. I've definitely got my art apron on for this one. So I'm going to take this, and if you want to, you can work box by box, but I prefer kind of starting to identify like value by value. So I'm going to call my hair and my shirt some of the darkest areas in here. And I'm going to kind of just start by making those pretty dark. I don't want to like push down so hard that I make them dark right now. You want to leave your darkest darks and your lightest lights for the very end. But I kind of want to get them dark. So you'll notice I can draw with the side of my charcoal, and it just covers really quickly and easily. And because I'm going dark, I just cover that grid right up, no problem. And if I lose some of those curvy lines that I had drawn before, that's not a big deal. I want to be careful about, I don't want to lose some of my important lines in the face, but the hair is a lot less important to get the gist of, and I can kind of even create a little bit of that wave or that curl already. So quick and easy. Now it's really dusty right now, and it's kind of, while I like this texture, I want to keep building on it. So this is where your tissue comes in. You can you push it in a little bit and smooth it out, and that's what gives it that sort of rich charcoal feel. So I'm going to continue with the darks, but then I'm also going to go in, like, this side of my face is a little bit darker than this side of my face, so I'm going to want to get that areas in, and kind of look at just a little bit of the nuances. One thing to be aware, your top lip, because it's angled down, is usually a little bit darker than your bottom lip, and that kind of gives the lip some shape. Also, don't forget about your background. Usually a medium or a medium and a light gray works really well for the background, just simple, and it allows your face to stand out really nicely. And then in the light areas, you kind of want to leave your lightest areas light, that color of the paper, and you can use your eraser to start removing that grid and get that out of the way. One thing to be aware of is that, like, as you work, if you're right-handed, kind of top left down. If you're left-handed, like, if you have an area that you've already covered, you may smudge it a little bit by continuing to draw on it. A little smudging is totally okay. Big smudge is a little bit harder. Also, you'll just get it all over your arm, which is not a huge deal, but be aware of kind of what you're smudging, so maybe hold your arm up a little bit. If you're drawing at an easel, it's actually a lot easier to draw without smudging everything, and that's one of the reasons for drawing at an easel. But here we go. when you're starting to draw in the lights and darks on your face, it is sort of helpful to identify like, where do you see shifts happening? And it's real subtle, but I see kind of a shift from light to just a little bit less light to a little bit dark. So I've got like thirds on my forehead. And in my nose, it's a little bit more pronounced between real light and real dark, and it comes around like halfway through. And then I see like I've got some bags under my eyes, which I'm not going to emphasize, but I am going to draw because it creates form in my eyes. And again, kind of a little bit darker under here and a little bit lighter up here with my cheek. So I'm just kind of looking at those areas, and I'm sort of trying to identify, we don't want there to be like harsh shifts in the final drawing, but to kind of start with like, this is a lighter area, this is a medium, this is a dark, and like know where those areas start and begin and end, helps you kind of, you'll then be able to like smooth them out later. But otherwise, it's hard to like figure out, like you essentially have to imagine a line there, except you don't want to draw the line there. If you've got a real light area, and because you'll notice the compressed charcoal gets really dark, you can just use your finger or an area of the tissue that already is kind of dark and kind of even just draw those light things with it, light areas with it. And then again, like if it's too dark, you can kind of lift it up a little bit. And we're just going to be working this, like we're going to be going back and forth and back and forth to get things detailed. But really the goal right now is to cover the whole thing. You do one more thing, well, many more things, I'm sure. You do want to kind of, the closer your strokes are together and the more even your strokes, you'll notice that even when you smooth things out, you see the stroke of the charcoal. So you want to kind of like, if you kind of just go crazy like a little kid with a crayon, that's going to come through in your final piece. So you want to control how your strokes are, and that's a little bit darker than I intended, but we can work with that. And ultimately, like the hair is going to get real dark. One of the things you want to be careful of is that you don't leave these like white areas in between shifts. So you always want to kind of like work into an area, and then you can reestablish the line a little bit later on. Okay, so at this point I have covered the whole paper with charcoal, which is the goal of this step. But again, because I'm sitting at a weird angle, I'm gonna stand up and take a look at it, and maybe step back a little bit and take a look at it. And then I'm gonna work on some details to make, because I'm looking a little crazy-eyed right now. So what happens when you're a little crazy-eyed is things are off. So if you notice, this eye is not perfectly circular, and I have a little more space over here than I do over there. So I think I like this eye better, so I'm gonna try to make this eye match this eye. So even though I'm looking at the camera here, it's gonna end up like I'm looking over there a little bit. So this will end up being slightly different. I'll be able to shift that back if I hit the reflected light at the very end in my irises. But for now, I'm just gonna try to make the two eyes match because that's gonna be a little bit more important. I'm not so worried about details. What I like is I've gotten this like light area, this dark area. I've gotten the nose shape close to how I want it. I've gotten the mouth shape close to how I want it. You can see I had this tricky area where the neck is darker and then it flips and the bottom of the chin is darker. So I had to do dark, 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 and then kind of flip it and then dark over here. So that's something to be aware of, is just kind of like, where does the dark stop? Where does the light stop? And it's easiest just to like be comparing it to other things. I even made my eyes, the whites of my eyes, a little bit not perfect paper, because otherwise they start to be a little crazy. And I've ignored my necklace for now. I think the necklace is something that's going to be a detail that I add at the very end. It's going to be easier to make my skin even without that.